Emery is a high school science teacher. She is a former science fair participant. She was a member of the Greater Vancouver and the Vancouver Island Regional Science Fair committees. And she's volunteered with Science Fair Foundation, leading a number of things, including developing student workshops and helping with the two regional science fairs that we ran last year. Oh, let's go to Emery, and I'll get these slides up for you as well.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Okay, cool. Hopefully there's no kids running around and screaming in the background. If there is, because I'm still at school. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of walk you through some ideas that popped up for me when I was thinking of how to do community outreach for a science fair committee. And I've done a little bit of that as well. Well, a lot of that, I guess, when I was with the Greater Vancouver Regional Committee for many years. And now, as a science teacher, I'm kind of on the other side, I guess, of the medal, where I get people to like contact me and ask me, "Hey, do you want to participate in this or in this activity?" And I know that I'm really guarded with my time and my energy as a teacher, so I figured that I could give you a bit of ideas or feedback on what to do, what not to do. Um, so the first thing, if you are reaching out to some teachers, the really neat thing with the new BC curriculum, especially for science, is that inquiry is really a big component of the current BC curriculum. So it's important to have the discussions with the teachers that doing science fair is not necessarily like an extra of what the curriculum is. It's actually within and part of the curriculum itself. So we really want to try to see it as a way that we can touch on those curricular competencies without creating some extra work for the teachers. Um, there's also an attached resource that will be shared with you. I don't know if it has been yet or if it will be in the future, but it's basically a rubric that you can use that shows the different standard-based assessment for science fair linked to the curricular competency. So that can be a good resource as well. Next slide. Thank you. Um, so speaking from personal experience in the last couple of years through the pandemic, I know we're tired as teachers and we're pretty overwhelmed with everything still. And so it's a lot sometimes to ask for teacher to change whatever they're doing already at this time. So it's really to let them know that the science fair can be done within class time. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be like a massive club, or it doesn't have to be a massive project throughout the year. Or depending on the teacher, it can also be the opposite. It could be, I don't want to do this in my class, but I have a few couple of students that are actually really interested into science. And maybe it's all about supporting these 4 or 5 students in your school to participate and have a bit more of a resource teacher basically to guide them. So that can be something that's also an option. Um, and also making sure that the teachers are aware that as the committee, you are there to guide them and to help them. And hopefully throughout this year, throughout these meetings, we give you the resources that you need to kind of be able to support those teachers and have access to different resources that are pre-made for you that you can use with the teachers to help them as well. Next slide. Thank you. Um, I actually mentioned this before, but yeah, you can have one teacher that's really passionate about science fair who wants to do just a club, or you can have teachers that are like really into science fair, like me, who is running like a home like science fair in my school this year with something like 80 projects. And sometimes I wonder why, but I really like it. And every time we actually get going and the kids come up with their ideas, I'm like, I don't know how I can not do this, because I feel like it's their one opportunity in my program where they get to do their own experiment, like that they choose by themselves. One thing though that's really interesting is also that I think when we talk about science fair, a lot of people feel that it's this unattainable kind of science project. But there's a lot of opportunities for differentiation for science fair. You know, I have a student who is on the spectrum who a couple of years ago did a science fair with little rockets where he makes like different ratios of vinegar and baking soda to see which rocket would go the highest. And he did great. He followed the scientific method. He did an awesome project. He got a really good mark on it in my class, but it was his idea and he built it up. But then I have some students who want to go to the Canada Wide Science Fair, and I help them get there too. So there's a lot of way to touch all the students and do easy differentiation with science fair. Next slide. Um, okay, so one thing that's important like I mentioned, it doesn't have to be a full school fair. Like I'm doing a school fair at my school because we like it, and we actually have every year a fair number of students who are interested in participating in the regionals. But it used to be when I first started working here, we had like, I don't know, maybe 60 students in grade 9 doing the science fair. And then the teacher who was doing that group before would have judges similar to the regional science fair coming in the gym with like a big full day science fair, and she had to book all the judges and arrange everything. And then during COVID, I couldn't do that, so I had to be creative. And then for a year and a half, we didn't have anybody visit our science fair. It was just the grade nines sharing with each other, like in a block or two that we booked, where they basically literally didn't do a poster. They did a short like a slideshow. And I had them set up in different rooms with their laptops open with some of their products on the side. And then I gave them like times where they can rotate. I'm like, okay, for this half hour, you're presenting, and this half hour, you're moving around, visiting your friend's project. And just that enough, like there was no judging, there was no like big organization. It was really just an easy way for the kids to see what everybody else was doing, which was a great learning opportunity for them as well. And then last year I was like, okay, I want to get the judging back, but I couldn't be bothered with having visitors, with vaccine passports and all the things. So I'd figure, you know what, I'm going to ask our own students in grade 10 to 12 if they want to be judges. And I had like super driven students coming back to science fair to help judge. They did an amazing job. And I've asked my grade 9 students to self-identify if they wanted to go through the judging experience for a chance to go to the regionals. And I had only maybe 25 students out of about 80 that said, yeah, I want to do this. So I reduced my workload. I reduced the size of our judging like pot basically. And I made some differentiation happen there for the students as well. And then the strongest students that were selected went to regionals. Next slide. Okay. One thing, if you have already the dates of the professional development days in your districts for the school years, it would be a great idea maybe to try to reach out to the teachers during those days. So there's one coming up in October, but there's also other ones in the next couple of months afterwards. And seeing maybe can you suggest to the school, hey, I want to do a like 45-minute quick workshop or drop-in session on how to create a science fair in your classes. We want to give them resources, so trying to book those time, if possible, on the time where just the teachers are actually already given that time to do Pro D. So that's one option if you feel that they're not really receptive to take time out of the regular schedule. If you have undergrad students or alumni students for science fair in your committee or around, use them. They're usually really keen to help get people to do science fair. And that's something that as a committee, if you're a working professional and you don't have time to book a day off to go do a presentation in a classroom on a Monday afternoon, then maybe you have some alumni or some grads that would, or undergrad that would actually really like to do this. And again, we'll be sharing with you some resources of like kind of pre-made standard template slideshows that you can use as a starter, and you can personalize them just to show basically the teachers what are the stage of science there, what kind of projects are available, how they link to the curriculum and things like that. Was that my last slide? Oh, there's one more thing. Okay, cool. Yes, so this is key. And I keep telling this to my families because when we talk about science fair, everybody freaks out. Um, the project that you move to the regional doesn't always have to be like a Canada way, like master thesis project. It can be something really simple, but also really well done. So in the past, what we've done is sometimes we might have, room for 8 projects, and we have 5 that are highly competitive. But then we also look at how motivated the students actually were with their project and who actually really wants to go and who actually really wants to be there. And so sometimes we have these extra couple spots that we can send students that maybe don't have the best project this year but have the potential of actually coming back next year and starting that fire in them. And we've seen that over and over, a student coming back because they're like, oh, I really like this communication opportunities, I've met so many great friends, I want to do it again. And then they come back with a really strong project the next year. So always think of the potential of the future years. um, you will have at some point to discuss ethics with teachers, and I know there will be a meeting on this later. But just so you know, it can be pretty overwhelming for teachers because if you do any sort of human or animal participants, you have a bunch of forms that the students need to fill, etc. And usually we try to have ethical approval from the science fair committee before the students start doing the experimentation. So if you have teachers that are like, ooh, I'm not sure, I would just give them the advice at first as they get used to it. Don't approve anything with human or animals. Like if that's where you need to start, just start at the basic, simple experiments. And as they get comfortable, if they see that as something that they want to take on, then they can get more information from you for the ethics and support students. I give templates to my students if they do survey of like a consent form that they have to include, and I review all of their questions one by one. But I also I literally take from October to February to do the science fair with them, and I give them about 10 classes to work on this in class with me. So I make that part of my curriculum. And I think that's pretty much it. I can't see the bottom part of that slide because my me thingy is over it. But the Science Fair Foundation has tons of resources that you can contact them for support. They have mentorships and ethics committee, and they can also help you out and guide you with different resources that are available as well. And I think that was that.